Hello, I hope that you are having an amazing day. Welcome to this week's episode of the Mandala Effect, where today I want to talk to you about time and how precious time is, and more importantly, how we're using our time and how you can use your time more effectively. And when I say effectively, I don't mean that we have to plan every second of every day out. And when I first started learning about personal development and I was listening to the likes of Tony Robbins, and I was learning about net time, no extra time, so doing 5,000 things at once. And I don't believe that's how we use our time effectively anymore. That might work for you, but let's learn to explore something different. And I've been inspired to record this podcast because last night I looked at my diary, my calendar, trying to arrange time to see friends and travel, and there are lots of things that I would like to do this year. And I realised I'm booked out until May, and that's quite shocking considering the year feels like it's only just begun. We're at the end of February. My birthday has just gone. I'm now 32. And like I look back at the last few years and I think, what what the hell happened? And how time actually really can heal, and how drastically things can change over the space of 12 months if we're patient and if we allow them space to. So yes, we're going to be speaking about time, and I will give you my three main tips that I believe will help you use your time more effectively. So welcome to the Mandala Effect, and thank you for joining me. It's with this podcast that I hope to inspire and encourage you to go out and live your absolute best life. And when you can start to step into the most powerful version of yourself and reclaim your power and align with your higher self, and you start to live life that way, you make a massive impact on the universe, on consciousness, on those people around you. Learn to work on your own life and work on your own internal reality, and you will see drastic change in your external reality, in the people around you, and in how life presents itself to you. So hopefully this conversation will do that, as well as time is one of those things that people believe we don't have enough time. Life is short. You hear all of this, and I've faced the thought that life is short. I could have potentially died at the age of 30, and I didn't. But if I had, I knew that I would be dying having lived a very full life already, because I've had from a very young age, I've had a bit of a YOLO attitude, in that you go and life is for living. When I was 18, I got "live for the moment" tattooed on my ribs, and I thought I was so cool. But I've always lived for today. I've always lived for what I want, like for adventure and for joy and for fun. But then this got a bit clouded a few years ago, and I lived to achieve, and I just constantly wanted to strive and move on to the next best thing, and think about how, and I was planning every second of my day out, and I was, but in a way that I had meetings at 7 a.m. and I didn't log off the computer until 8 p.m. And, that was a good productive day. And that's probably it's certainly what led to my stress issues and my chronic stress that I faced, but also in a way probably led to the more serious health issues that my body went through. So so I was working like these ridiculous hours in this ridiculous way, It didn't help that we were in COVID and that there wasn't much extracurricular stuff that you could do. And for me and my boyfriend at the time, that extracurricular stuff was going and sitting in the pub or having pints by the river, which, whilst that was nice at the time, I don't believe it's particularly valuable use of time now. But certainly because the reason we were doing it was to avoid whatever was going off. But I went from that to my life completely stopping and me actually not being able to, I couldn't work. I couldn't do the extracurricular stuff really. I was, time was almost taken away from me. This time that we have and how I was living my life was taken away from me. Now it had to be. I understand that. But I went from one extreme to the other, which made me really, really look at how I was using my time, coming back into reality, coming back into the world this time last year. And it made me think about what I wanted to create. It made me become more conscious about how I was living and how I was spending my time. And there is one quote that just absolutely gets me. I've never watched a James Bond film until I watched, what's it called? No Time to Die, the more recent one with Daniel Craig. And at the end, M reads a quote and basically it says, "I would rather be ashes than dust." And it goes on and then it says, I will use my time. And this hit me in the face like, wow. Okay, so in fact, this quote probably encouraged me to stop chemotherapy. It encouraged me that I was here to live. I was here to make an impact. I was here to do something. And whilst I've already been doing those things, I had to kind of question in what way I wanted to do them going forward. So this quote, whenever I think about how I'm using my time, always it just lingers in the back of my head. It's always there. And one of my good friends has recorded a song inspired by this quote as well. Anuska Taylor, "Use My Time." Go and listen to it on Spotify. It is just amazing and really powerful. And when I hear her sing it, I am just filled with power, with wow, okay, so how am I going to use my time? And it's a really important reminder when we do live in such a fast-paced society, we are so encouraged to go to work, live for the weekend, have a holiday a couple of times a year. Weekends, you're either cleaning the house or you're spending time with family. You might be doing chores, things that you don't really want to do. Most people work 9 to 5, they get in, they're too tired, they don't go to the gym, they don't look after their bodies, or they're doing too much of it's kind of, I think we've certainly, as humanity has evolved, we have lost balance and we have lost what it means to use our time wisely. So one thing that I was really asked to question in my life last year was, how do I use my time effectively? What do I want to create? And I didn't have goals this time last year. I couldn't really see that far ahead of me, but I knew there were 2 things that I wanted to do last year, and that was record 1 podcast every week. It didn't matter what it was, as long as kind of I was getting in front of the camera and sharing what was in my heart, and that is what I do every week. I think last year I missed 3 or 4 weeks, and I almost missed today because I thought I didn't have time, and that was because I've had time off for my birthday and lots going off. I'm kind of doing a few different pieces of work at the moment, and so I'm realizing that my time is very limited and it is very precious, and how am I going to spend it? But this podcast for me is one of the most important things I do, because if somebody can listen to it and it will help give them an insight, give them an aha moment, or they'll listen to it and think, wow, my friend needs to listen to this, and they'll pass it on, then that I've done my job. If I can help one person with this podcast, I've done my job, and it is worth me carving out the time and putting the effort into creating it every single week. So last year I knew that I wanted to record the podcast every week and I wanted to write a book. And so I carved out the time to do that. And for half an hour to an hour every day for the first 3 months of last year, I sat down and I wrote, and I poured my heart and soul into this book. And I've put it on pause. It's finished. It's ready. I just need to. It needs editing, but I've just paused it because at the moment I am doing a lot of other stuff, and the time isn't right for me to release this book yet. So it's kind of, I've been forced to ask myself questions of what is important to me, how do I want to spend my time, what are my priorities and what are my values? Is the time that I am spending doing these things that I am doing every day aligned with my values? So one of the most important things for me is at the moment connecting with nature, exercising, being out in fresh air, spending time present and on my own, because I believe that this is where I am most connected to source. I am most connected to my higher self. And when we're living from that space, well, we create magic. So really questioning and aligning with my values of having that sacred time, especially in a morning. Morning is like my sacred time. I get up, I feed the cat, I meditate, I do some form of exercise, I do my gratitude practice, I kind of vision into the future. I do some amazing, and I read, and I do some amazing things in the morning. And I believe a morning routine is extremely important when you want to be using your time effectively, because then come kind of 9-10 o'clock, it's quite, fast paced. It's work. And for me, I'm very, very grateful because I do purpose work. I help people every day. I'm a life coach, and I also do some coaching for a company that helps female founders get investment, which is incredible in itself, because the world needs so many more female founders, but also businesses that are making an impact in the world, and so many of these businesses are. So my days are really, really quite packed with trying to be the most effective, and then you have things like the practical things, like the accounts in running the business, like the accounts, the marketing, the social media, that when do I get all of this done? But every day it's what is my priority, what are the top 3 things that I need to do today. And I'm very grateful that I had the inspiration to record this podcast about time, because I have the space to do it. It is one of my priorities. And so go on, let's do it. One thing that's also extremely important, and I mentioned about connecting with nature and being present with myself, how you're spending your time, and are you present or are you away with the fairies, lost in your mind? Because we're often encouraged to multitask, to be efficient, to do lots of things at once. Go for a walk and listen to a podcast. I am guilty that sometimes if I talk to my friends on the phone, I'm cooking dinner. I'm not completely present. And actually, time is well spent when you are present. So even if you are doing absolutely nothing, which we should be doing a lot more of, I have to say. So even if you are doing absolutely nothing, as long as you can be present with yourself and be present in doing absolutely nothing, that is time well spent. There is no such thing as wasted time when you are in the present moment. Because when you are in the present moment, you are connecting to your heart. You're connecting to your body, your energy system, your higher self, the universe, divinity, and you are there with the all that is, and that is extremely powerful. So the more consciously we can move through life, the more present we can be as we move through life, in doing our daily tasks, in doing our yoga, in doing our exercise, then the more fulfilled your life will be and you will feel. Because the other thing as well is that actually time isn't linear. So this is we're going to get into a bit of the quantum now, because time isn't actually linear. It's been proven that time, everything is happening in this very moment. The Egyptians, 1,000 years ago, I know they were longer than 1,000 years ago, whenever the ancient Egyptians were lingering around on this planet, in the linear timeline, actually, that is happening right this very second. So the past isn't real, the future isn't real. The only moment that is real is this moment right now. So it's so important to be present in this moment right now, because this moment is actually all you will ever have. And if you want to learn more about the power of now and the power of being present, Eckhart Tolle is the guy to go to. And it is just like, when I started to understand this, and understand the power of presence, again, my outlook changed, because I know that before I was ill, I was never present. Actually, I was drinking alcohol to try and feel present, or to escape. You know, it's where are we escaping? Where are we? I was over, and then a few years before cancer, I was over exercising. I was distracting myself. I was never in the present moment. Even when I was at work, I had 1,000 things going on at once, and now I'm quite busy now, and I'm really trying to remain present. How can I make the biggest impact in what I am doing right this very second in this present moment, and aligning my daily tasks with my priorities and my values, so that I can live effectively, not like not like squeezing 1,000 things into the day at once, but live effectively. And living effectively to me means that I am using my time in a way that is going to impact others and that is going to serve people, and me being present whilst doing that, and fulfilling my priorities first, is the first way to get there. And so in this kind of fast-paced reality society that we live in, and how we are encouraged to do 1,000 things at once, and you'll read and listen to a lot about purpose, and you know, what is your purpose and how are you living aligned with your purpose. And I think a lot of people think that needs to mean that we do, you know, if we're not living our purpose, we're not living our lives. But trust that whatever you're doing is absolutely right for this very moment in your life, because we are all on a journey. We're all on different journeys. We're all so unique. Our souls are so unique. We're on different paths. We have different experiences, and we're supposed to have different experiences. We don't have to live in the way that society has programmed us. You know, that is that conditioning programming. I believe that we're here in this human life to forget that. Not to forget that, to remember like who we really are, and that is that we are free beings, that we can step out of this conditioning and this programming of, you have to work. You have to do. If you're not doing something, if you're not working to achieve, if you're not working to buy the next best thing, then you know you're wasting your time. And what have you achieved in life? And it's very famously said that nobody has got to the end of their life and thought, I wish I spent more time at the office. When you can step into that of, you know, how do I want to live my life? When I am at the end of my days, will I look back on my life and think, yeah, I used my time effectively? I know there's some very famous research done. I can't think of her name right now, but about deathbed thinking, and how people kind of look back at their lives at the end of their lives. This nurse who worked in palliative care, and you know, what a profound job and profound thing to do. And she interviewed people and asked them, and you know, I think most people had regrets around how they spent their lives, and probably wish they spend more time with family, wish they spend more time exploring what what they loved, and going on more adventures and having more fun and experiencing more that this beautiful world has to offer. But we're so programmed to work until retirement, to do certain things. You know, to be honest, I don't see myself ever retiring, because I'm building a life that you know, I think it's important to build a life that you don't want to take a break from, you don't want to retire from. You know, this, when your work, your holidays, your life, your family, it all kind of, it's a lifestyle. You can create a lifestyle rather than creating a segmented planner that you live your life by, and then when you hit the age of 70 you retire, and then you have a couple of decades, if you're lucky, to live. And how many 90-year-olds do you see jumping out of planes and skydiving and hiking up mountains? You know, go and do it now. So 3 ways that you can use your time more effectively in this human life that you are so blessed to be living. Number 1 is have a think about what is your higher purpose. Why are you here? What is it that you want to do with your life? When you look back at how you have lived, how do you want to say that you lived? And are you doing that today? So when I say your higher purpose, it doesn't mean that you have to change the world. Your higher purpose can simply be aligning more with your true self, aligning more with who you really are deep within your soul. And so if that means that you swap the CrossFit class for the yoga class because you decide that that's just not your vibe anymore, that's absolutely fine. If it means that you drop your accountancy job for going and becoming an environmentalist, then that's absolutely amazing as well. But what is your higher purpose, and are you living aligned with that? Number 2, do some writing on that, journal. Number 2, what are your priorities and how do they align with your values? This can stem from your higher purpose. So what are your priorities? Are you ticking off your priorities every day, or are you just busy being busy? And how do your priorities align with your values? So if your values are family, love, adventure, joy, how are you living that in every day? Or if your priorities are like maybe they are beauty and creation and art and inspiration, how are you living that every day? Does your career help you fulfill that? Is your relationship allowing you space to live this? And then my final step for you is to remain present as you go about your day. Remain present through the tasks that you are doing. Live consciously, live with awareness. And I promise you that no life is wasted when you are living in the present moment, and when you are living for now, in the now, understanding that the now is all you have. I am going to leave you now with those 3 tips, with those 3 steps, and really great journaling points for you. Go and see if there are any changes you can make. You know, it's all well and good listening to this and hearing these steps, but and writing the things down that come from your heart, but also what action are you going to take? What changes are you going to make? How are you going to start using your time more effectively? I would love to know what you think. I would love to know how you're using your time. I would love to know what your higher purpose is. And I'd love to know if you have any comments or thoughts about time and using our time effectively. So please get in touch. If you would like to work with me one-to-one as a coach to step more into your higher purpose, into your power, maybe break away from the conditioning and the programming that you are in. If you have planned every hour of your day to dedicated it to your career and you realize that you're absolutely miserable, then get in touch. Let's have a chat. I can help guide you from where you are, if that's stress, stuck, overwhelm, into this life of freedom and ease where you are more conscious and you are living life more effectively. Just email me hello@roseannacroft.com, or you can find loads of free resources, loads of free content on my website. I have guided meditations to help you connect to the present moment and to your higher self. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you.